Well, all's well. Good to see you guys. Dustin supporting the full beard. Kind of like it. I'm kind of digging that. Yeah. And Joe's still supporting the Astros. That's even better. But no, we're doing well. Kids are fired up. We've had a really good fall. When you look at the circumstances, and I'm gonna mainly try to stay away from discussing so much about COVID because it's opening day of our first official spring practice. But our kids did a great job in the classroom, which is also a very different setting. They did a great job on the field. We got better in the fall. I really believe we got better in the fall. And then coming back, we've been pretty healthy. We got a handful of guys that are in and out, but fortunately we haven't been disrupted where we had to stop at any time. But I know there's a lot of excitement in our team, our coaches, our support staff, a lot of preparation that from top to bottom that's going to give us the potential to go out and play a full season. And, we're just looking forward to that competition and getting back to as close to normal as we can and, competing. We got a great schedule put together. So, yeah, I'm wide open for questions.
Great. Thanks, Coach. We'll start it off with Dennis.
Hey, Coach, last season you guys were so good, and then the whole Corona thing. Then you have the odds-on newcomer of the year, the odds-on freshman of the year. Everything seems to be set up so well. Do you embrace the high expectations, the big lofty ranking going in, or are you trying to kind of pump the brakes with your guys right now?
Actually, we haven't talked about it at all in either of those facets. I think it's something that we accept, we look at, we understand the expectations. We always have understood it. The excitement of being 14-3 last year, going into our last series before conference with a lot of momentum, and then carrying that over to this year, returning 2 of our 4 seniors. We feel like our strength right now is depth with our position players as well as on the mound. And I think that's really critical on the mound because of players being off so long. We're probably going to piggyback some guys in some starts, double up some guys, be pretty cautious early on. But, our guys have earned that, bringing in a Mike Antico. I don't know if he's that guy. We think he's pretty good. But evidently everybody else in the conference thinks he's pretty good as well. Tanner Witt's the big name that we were able to hang on to from the draft. So that makes sense. And then Ty Madden has just positioned himself to be that guy. And I think for Ty especially, it's about health. I know what we're going to get out of Ty every week. He's going to be prepared every single week. It's just going to be maintaining his health and taking care of his body, which he does a tremendous job doing. And then you look at the rankings. The rankings are really cool when they're in your favor. When you're not in there, you kind of blow it off. When you're in there, it's for me, I like the preseason ranking of any ranking other than the last one, for the simple fact that we have recruits that look at that for 6 weeks before we even play a game. So we get a lot of good exposure with our recruits. And I think that's kind of critical in this day and age. But as far as the meaning of a ranking, I just think that there's a lot of really good teams, and we're one of them. But how you rank any team at this point, other than maybe Florida, Vanderbilt, some teams that are really proven, I think it's really difficult to put a number on it because we have such a small sample from last year. So for us, we're just excited. Our kids are excited to get on the field and compete against each other, and then getting ready for our outside competition.
Danny, go ahead.
David, has the Big 12, I'm assuming they have, what are the guidelines for minimums as far as COVID numbers are for baseball?
Oh, where do you want to start? I mean, we have so many. I think when you look at travel, we're looking at 30-man rosters, potentially still being able to travel outside of 30 on non-conference games. When you look at thresholds for pitching, it's 3 per game, up to 10 per a 3-game series. And then the only other stipulation is catching, making sure that you have 1 full-time, at least an emergency catcher, because we don't want to mess up the integrity of the game and putting somebody else back there that's never caught. I think that's the biggest concern. The key too is making sure we list our roster, our full roster going into the season. So maybe you are in trouble with a top 5 arm, but you have arms, you might lose that top 5 arm for the weekend, but you have to add that other guy that maybe you weren't planning on using. So we're going to present our roster at the beginning of the year and every healthy body. So we have a pool to pull out of. But other types of protocol or thresholds, we've even talked about if we have enough to play 1 game, we're still going to play that 1 game if our pitching, let's say we have 5 pitchers and the threshold says you need 6 to play 2 games, then we're still going with the intent to go play the 1 game. If you have 5, you can still opt to play 2 games, even though you don't have the minimal. So those are going to give us some flexibilities of where we are. As far as position players, we feel pretty comfortable that guys are interchangeable. They can go from the infield to outfield, outfield to infield to a point. So we haven't really touched on that.
And you mentioned your schedule. How much of a challenge was it putting together that schedule this year with so much uncertainty up until a couple of weeks ago with the Big 12?
Well, we went back and forth on 4-game series, 4 games in 3 days, traditional schedules. So that slowed the process down because it affected midweek games. Once we decided to do a traditional schedule of midweek and 3 games, then we've able to kind of fill in the blanks. We're planning on releasing the schedule, I believe, on Tuesday. We're waiting on a possibility of a 4th weekend series. If we don't get a weekend series, that 4th weekend, we'll list it as TBA. And then with the intent that something could happen in the first 3 weeks with any team, but we have the potential to play the other team. But right now we open up at Globe Life, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Ole Miss. We come back home and play BYU Wednesday through Saturday. They don't play on Sundays. We have a double midweek, and then we go to Houston. So I think it's like the first 20 days, we've got 13 games scheduled, which we consistently do that early because we want to see pitching and see how that evolves.
Joe Cook, go ahead.
You spoke a lot right before everything shut down. I think it was in Houston after that Arkansas game where you said, you love this team. How did that team kind of keep all that together through the shutdown? And is it still kind of have that same, I guess, vibe from last year's team with this similar group?
Well, unfortunately, we didn't play the rest of the spring, nor did we play the entire summer. We were shut down from our administration to not even go out and play in the summer. And then, we spent a lot of time on Zoom calls. We had outside guest speakers come in, and it just started getting really old. So, we started moving away from them a little bit, checking in, but instead of being twice a week, it turned into 2 times, every 2 weeks until we got back. The one thing I was really impressed with the team is they look great. When they came back, they were in shape. And I think you could really see their appreciation of coming back and their excitement of being back, not only on the field, but back with their teammates and back at the dish. Yeah, that excitement's still there. This is an incredible group of young men. It's not just the talent. I don't have any clue of how many games we're going to win, but I do know that I like going to compete with this group.
Dustin, you're up.
David, you mentioned early on about just the arm care and the aspect of how you guys might change the way you treat pitchers initially early on in the season. Just can you add more detail to like how you guys kind of came to that conclusion and what a possible outline could be? Because I was going to ask, like, these guys didn't have their normal workload last year. You know, they're going to have to kind of build up a different way. Like, how did you guys come to that conclusion that, hey, we might have to piggyback some guys early on as these guys build up?
I think we always have a little bit of thought there, depending on pitch count, depending on stress innings. But we did a little research on it, and one of the biggest issues is the layoff as opposed to the consistency. So we try to encourage them to go out, pitch in some type of simulated game. If it's, you know, in a facility or at a field with a catcher and 3 hitters, and actually break that. I know Ty probably logged 60 innings, which is exactly what he needed to do. But the health factor just tells us that for longevity, for our guys to have a shot to be healthy and good in April, May, June, we're going to have to be a little more cautious early on. I'm not real big on just an exact number when you talk about pitch counts. You know, we've talked about that before. It's stress pitches versus number of pitches. And so we'll just pay attention. We kind of addressed it looking at potentially 8 to 10 guys, extending them in the fall, and look at those types of guys as starters, and knowing that if we can get a guy to 3 innings or to 5 innings, then we have help behind him. And I think when you look at opening day, you're going to see Ty, and he's going to be ready. And I couldn't tell you how many pitches or how many innings he's going to throw, but we'll pay close attention to it. Let's say hypothetically he only gets 6. There's a good chance that 4th or 5th starter comes in as the second guy to piggyback that and utilize a back end guy if needed. We could potentially go with 2 type of starter guys. Just depends on the game, how the game is dictated. But I think in Sean, Coach Allen, and my planning together, it's just really who can extend, who we feel like have a possibility of being a true starter. And then it's much easier to go from extending and backing off as opposed to trying to jumpstart them. Now, all of a sudden in week 2, we're going to extend them. So just paying attention to that.
And knowing how you're taking that approach, mostly with those starters, how do you view the bullpen? What do you want to see from those guys, kind of more of those back end guys during these preseason weeks? And obviously that's a question that takes into weeks of the season to solve as guys kind of figure out their roles or stuff like that. But you lose a guy like Dre, who is probably going to be in the back end of a lot of games. What do you want to see from the bullpen, both now and then as you guys get into some games?
Well, you know, we won a national championship back at Rice, and we used 8 guys. Literally, we used 8 pitchers. There's been times that we've used 12 pitchers, and it's been the right number. Last year, I think we even in 17 games utilized probably 16 to 17 arms, which is kind of unusual. So that's why I say the strength of our team or our staff is in numbers more so than experience. My goal is for an inexperienced player to get in and get out in opportunities. The guys like Merriman, he's built some trust. I think Wenzel's going to be in that role where they're a 1 to 2 inning type of arm, but then how can they bounce back the next day? And I think that's the key for us is if we push a guy to 35 pitches, is he available Saturday? Most likely not. But we've got to have another guy that's kind of a similar type guy. So I think we're trying to mirror some guys at this point to have 2 of the same type of guys until we really evolve that bullpen and really find out who can bounce back, especially because of the long delay.
Chris, you're up.
Hey, David, first off, just want to ask if you're still grilling in your full uniform and directing traffic in your neighborhood on the street corner?
What is that?
You still grilling in your
full
full
directing
uniform?
traffic in my uniform?
Yeah.
No, man, not at all. My neighbors are tired of seeing me right now.
What are the emotions like on today where it's your first practice of the season after, who knows if that we were ever going to get to this point? So many stops and starts with other sports on campus. What you guys went through last year where the pandemic hit right where you're in the middle of it. What are the emotions of finally getting to this point and getting to feel like you have a chance for a full real season?
Yeah, I haven't seen the team yet, but I've seen them since we've been back, and their energy level and their excitement and their desire to go out and be great and kind of push themselves and each other has been in existence since we've been back. Today's similar to an opening day of the season. It's new. Now we get to compete. We've got a live arm. We've got a full defense. So I think the excitement of just competing in a game, whether it's against each other or not, doesn't matter. And then knowing that we're going to play throughout the weekend, the trend tends to be that we go through this period, and then by about 10 days to 14 days, now they're sick of competing against each other, and they're starting to trend towards, I'm ready to compete against outside competition. So it's pretty common, but today kind of feels like, yeah, it's a fresh start. It's competition. It's kind of like opening day for our guys.
Thanks.
Jeff Howe, you're up.
Hey, Coach, good to see you. Austin Todd and Zach Zubia were two guys that talked a lot going into last year about how much work they had both put into it. Both those guys coming back, maybe if the draft structure was normal, maybe they wouldn't be back. But how has this process been for both of those guys kind of ramping up to last year and then the layoff and now them coming back and being a really big part of your ball club this year?
I think they're definitely different types of kids. Austin likes to get out in the outdoors and do different things in his free time. And he's kind of in and out in his prep. He's always got baseball number one, but he spends his time a lot different than Zach does. Zach is into his master's program now. He's really hitting it hard in the books. As far as on the field, I think it was a letdown, a major letdown because of their age. They're graduates. Now what do I do next? But I think they were really encouraged to come back because, if you look at the job market, it wasn't the best. You look at their situation for professional baseball, it was non-existent to a $20,000 sign. It just didn't make sense. And initially, they're probably pretty down. But having both of them back, they give us so much experience and they have different ways of communicating with young players and also making other people around them better. And I think Austin has really done a good job with some of the younger players. And Zach just does it by example of not only working himself to become a better player, but making teammates a lot more accountable and knowing what is expected in this culture. I think that's been a big plus for our team.
And then how would you assess just overall the catching situation, getting DJ back for another year, then Silas getting a full year in the program?
Silas is really good right now. His defensive play is outstanding. He's swinging the bat well. And DJ's getting healthy. He spent some time in some technical pieces of his throwing. I don't know if he'll ever have a big arm back there, but his transfer, his footwork is both improved, and he's swinging the bat really well. And I think you'd be really impressed if you watch Peyton Powell and Caston Peter right now. They're becoming trustworthy guys that if we get in a situation where both Silas and DJ are in the lineup, DJ as a DH, Silas catching, that we can still utilize a number 3 late in the game for defensive purposes.
Got time for a couple more questions before we go to the players. We'll go ahead and start with John.
You talked about the small sample size with the 17 games last year, but you also mentioned that you feel like these guys got better in the fall. What are the 2 main things that you feel like they got better at?
It's a good question because you look at the big picture right now and our bodies look great. Our movement looks great. I think, the little, maybe small things within a swing with one player. I would just say that as a team, we look a little more physical and just putting in the time of not trying to do too much as far as, overly aggressive with your swings. In other words, trying to cut down your effort, trying to take the tension out of your body, which comes with maturation. So I just like the look of the team. I think physically we're better. Arm strengths are a little bit better. Our movement is better. Hopefully our plate discipline and those things that we worked on throughout the fall, we'll see a difference once we start this competition. But I just think as a team, we're much more mature than even going into last year and even where we finished. They're much more appreciative of what they're getting to do right now.
Jake, go ahead.
Coach, I'm assuming you were pleased with how Trey handled being a freshman starting shortstop last year. And speaking of maturity, what kind of strides are you expecting to see out of him now that he's had an off season with you guys and a few games as well?
It's interesting you bring up Trey because we were talking in a team meeting yesterday, just an offensive talk. And, he actually admitted that playing shortstop as a freshman at the University of Texas, he said he felt the pressure, but he had enough mechanisms because of, working with too low, working with his breathing, trusting his work, that he was able to get through some of those trying times, I guess. I expect him to take another step in his leadership because he's very vocal in the middle of the field and he knows what everybody's supposed to do. Now he has to be a little bit more demanding of getting that out of his teammates. He relishes that responsibility of being the shortstop at the University of Texas. And so I think I want to see more leadership out of him. Physically at home plate, he looks great. I think he's going to probably drop some balls in the gap. But I think you'll see a difference offensively with his ability to drive the ball and then his leadership in the middle of the field.
Last one, Nathan, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, for this freshman group of pitchers, does it feel like they might be behind a little bit now where they would be in a normal year? And has anybody really stood out from that group, really impressed you so far?
Yeah, it's hard to tell if they're behind or not because of just starting today. But throughout the fall, we didn't feel like they were behind. During fall ball, there's always mechanical adjustments, some tweaks here and there, and they were very receptive to that. I thought Aaron Nixon took some strides. He's going to help us in the back end of the bullpen. Lucas Gordon is going to fight for a starting job, whether it be a Sunday, Tuesday, a double midweek, potentially that piggyback type of a starter. And then Tanner Witt. As good as Tanner Witt has been coming in and, being a name recognition type of player, he has made some huge adjustments in his delivery. So we've kind of moved him and Nixon more so to the pitching side right now. They're still hitting, but they're not playing a position because we feel like as freshmen, they can help us more so on the pitching side and then still work towards becoming a two-way guy if that presents itself. But right now, we'd like to keep them and push them towards pitching. But I would say those three guys are the most impressive up to this point. I want to add one other guy. When you see him, he's very unassuming. 5'9" left-handed pitcher, Kaden Noah, but he's going to throw upper 80s. He's going to throw a plus breaking ball with great spin rate on that and manages and commands the changeup. This is a young man, when you look at him, it's like there's no way he pitches as a freshman at the University of Texas, but he's going to log some innings. He's really good, and he commands the ball as good as any pitcher on our team.
Thank you, Coach.
Got a question about a new guy with the team. How has Mike and Tico fit in with the rest of the team, and as a transfer coming in, join basically a roster that's coming back this year?
Mike's been awesome. The thing that's really stood out for all of us when he came in was, we heard about how good he was when he was at St. John's. He's got a couple of accolades. He had the All-American, but his work ethic when he came in here was impressive. I mean, we knew early on the skill set he had. For him to back it up with him coming in every day at the ballpark, getting better, having the younger guys kind of knowing that he is older and he has already had experience, and for him to come in and show his work ethic come along with that, he's fit right in with our team.
Has there been any kind of like culture shock moment where you got a guy from St. John's in New York City coming and playing baseball at the University of Texas? Anything that notable?
No, not really. I mean, everybody comes from a different area. I'm from Missouri. He's from the east side. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we're all here for the same goal, and that's to win a national championship. So we embrace everyone's personalities, and, we go from there.
Hey, gang, we have kind of a tight schedule for the players, so let's just keep it to one each so I can get through each of you. Danny, go ahead.
Yeah, Tristan, I'm wondering how you, Austin, DJ are handling your role now as the old guys on the team, and are those freshmen giving you guys any lip?
It's been fun. We joke about that too, us being the old guys, and we always talk about how we've seen a lot with some of these younger cats, but it's fun, for us especially. It's kind of like we're soaking it all in, because with how the season unfolded last year, it can be taken away from you really quickly, and that's what we're trying to let these younger guys know. You're like, hey, like, you're here, and I know we have these goals, but enjoy it. Like, enjoy each day, because it can be taken away from you. And we saw that firsthand.
Chris, go ahead.
Tristan, how do you guys handle all these massive expectations? You guys were playing so well last year, and then you come in, kind of seems like the media thinks you're going to pick up where you left off with high preseason rankings and all these player of the year accolades and all that. How do you guys handle the pressure of all of that?
To be honest with you, we really try not to pay attention to stuff like that. We're a tight-knit group. We stay within the clubhouse, and, we just keep our head down and work every day. We know what we're capable of. I mean, we're the University of Texas. That expectation should be there every year. But, at the end of the day, we know what we need to do, and the outside attention's great, but just keep our head down and work every day.
Dustin, you're up.
Tristan, you were a guy last year, coaching staff had a lot of confidence in coming in when there's a messy situation on the mound and throwing strikes and getting out of those types of jams. What do you think your role is going to be on the team this year? Kind of similar in that you're a guy that they like in those high leverage type situations?
To be honest with you, my role is whatever they want me to be in. So if that's going to be, if they want me to start, depending on COVID or scheduling, I'll start. If I need to be that guy that I come in when there's that tough situation, at the end of the day, I just want the ball, and I know what I'm going to bring to the table when I'm out there, and that's all I'm asking for.
Jake, you're up.
What would you say the level of excitement is knowing that your first 3 games of the season are all against other top 10 teams?
Oh, it's awesome. To be able to start off the season, with top tier competition, we're going to find out kind of where we're at. And I think we're ready for it. We're excited to get back out there and just see other competitions, and it'll be a good measuring stick to kind of find out where we're at, and then we can go from there and progress throughout the season.
John, go ahead.
Tristan, Coach talked about today feeling kind of like an opening day. What does it feel like for you?
What was that?
Coach talked about today, you guys getting out on the field feeling like opening day since it's been so long.
Oh, yeah.
What does it feel like for you?
I'm excited. Getting back out there and competing against the guys, that's all we can ask for. That's what we're all here for. And, it's different in the fall than spring. Once you get back from your winter break and, you got only a couple weeks before the season starts, that's when everyone's like, all right, it's go time. Like, here we go.
Jeff, you're up.
Hey, Tristan, how much are you looking forward to, and how was in the fall kind of the internal competition? It seems like every year there's a new crop of young arms coming in trying to claim roles. What's it like just going to work every day with Tanner Witt and Lucas Gordon, Aaron Nixon, those young guys, and kind of sorting out those bullpen roles?
It's been fun to watch. We have a really good mix of veteran guys who with a lot of experience, and then these young talented arms, like you mentioned with Tanner and Lucas and Aaron. And I think iron sharpens iron, and having these young cats come in and seeing what they're capable of, and having them butt heads with me, Ty, and some of these older guys that have been through it. It's only making us better. We're seeing these young and hungry guys trying to prove themselves. And it's, it keeps us in check too, because you can never be satisfied with your role because it can change, right? So it's definitely an iron sharpens iron kind of ordeal we have right now.
Trey, what would you say is the biggest difference in your approach to your second season at Texas as opposed to your first? I mean, freshman shortstop at Texas comes with a lot of expectations, a lot of different pressures and things like that. How would you say you've grown the most in that time then, now that you've got kind of not a full season, but an actual year under your belt?
Yeah, I would say that for me, I think those, whatever the 15 games, 16 games we play, I feel like for me helped a lot. Obviously, we didn't get to play in conference or anything, but I feel like those games, we played some big time games, so that allowed me, go back and look at things I did well and things I didn't do well, and kind of work on those throughout, quarantine and in the fall here at school. So I think it's huge. It allows me to have the ability to believe in myself and know that and show that I've already done it before, and to go out there and build upon what I've already done.
Danny, you're up.
Trey, how did you kind of handle the way this season ended last year? And not to be over dramatic, how did you kind of mourn or get over the loss of your freshman year?
Honestly, I try not to think about it too much. Obviously, that first week or two that we didn't know if we were actually going to come back and play and stuff like that. It was kind of our hopes were still high, but I think once we finally realized that we were not going to play anymore, I kind of just got over and kind of went back to the gym, started hitting again, and kind of just getting back in that practice mode and getting ready to get better for the next year. So I wouldn't say I dwelled on it too much, but for a couple of days I think it hurt. But after that, it was kind of getting back in gear.
Chris, go ahead.
Piggybacking on that idea, Trey, what's it like now with this being the first day of practice for the spring season? Who knew if we were ever going to get to this point? And after everything that you've been through over the past 11 months to be on the field with your team as a team, preparing for what you're expecting to be a full season, what are the emotions like today?
Obviously, emotions are really high right now. Everyone's excited, finally get to, play and play against someone else. It's been almost a year now that, we haven't been playing against anybody else, more inter squad and just, individual small group stuff. So, to finally be able to have that chance and that the ability to play someone else, everyone's really fired up and really getting after it to, prepare for the season. I think that y'all are going to see some special things from us this year.
John, go ahead.
Coming off of last year, you guys got off to the great start. Coach said he feels like you guys got better in the fall. What do you feel like you guys have gotten better, and what has you so fired up about this team?
Yeah, I mean, I think we got, in all aspects, defense, hitting, I think, having the ability for everyone to come back. Most people came back and are, adding the freshmen and guys that, played a lot last year to come back and just build on what they did last season. I think that's huge, and the experience that comes with that. I think we're just, fired up to compete again. I think a lot of the times, just being here, kind of getting the routine of just, same thing, practice every day, but to finally, strap it on and play against someone else that, you don't know that fires everybody up around here. So I think that competition is gonna be good for us. I think we're really prepared for it.
Nathan, go ahead.
Hey Trey, what was this quarantine like for you? Like, just how early did you get in the gym, get back into baseball? And also, like, any new hobbies, anything you picked up over quarantine?
Yeah, so I'll go on a new hobby. I try to learn sign language on my own for a little bit. I just looked up a whole bunch of YouTube and try to learn sign language. It's super hard, so if y'all ever try to do it, I wouldn't recommend it. But other than that, I try to my uncle has a little gym in his garage, so he lives in my neighborhood, so I go over there every day and work out with him. And I have I built a net in my backyard, and just off a tee would just do my stuff. And then once things kind of finally opened back up, I was able to have a place to go to and hit in the cage and stuff like that. So it was pretty soon, right? I think I would say about 2 or 3 weeks after, quarantine first started, I was able to get back into it and kind of just build on what I wanted to do and grow from there.
Danny, go ahead.
Not only do you guys get a chance soon to start competing again, but you guys are going to start the season on a huge stage against 3 really good opponents. How ready is this team for that showcase in Arlington? And what do you guys hope to accomplish up there?
Oh, win. That's the main goal. We go up there to win. There's nothing other than that but to win. No matter how it gets done, we want to win. The competition is going to be really good. I think it's going to be a good test to see where we're at. And I think it allows, some of the younger guys and returning guys to see, where we're really at and what we need to work on. I think that competition provides, it'll show us holes in our game and things we need to get better at, but it'll show, strengths too. I think we're a really good team. And I think that there's going to be some good competition. Everyone's going to be excited to see us play.
Dustin, go ahead.
Trey, I think you and Troy Tulowitzki probably get along great because you guys are baseball junkies, like to put in the extra work and things like that. What are some of the things that you guys have talked about that you're going to try to take to the field more, whether it's these preseason weeks or early part of the season, some areas to kind of focus on?
Yeah, I think, just overall the competitiveness of, obviously with me, but the whole team, getting the competitive mindset back, building on that and, really taking that mindset and that mentality to a whole nother level, even more so than we did last year. I think that's one of the big things that we talked about this fall and early this spring is the mindset and the mentality of how we're going to beat these teams. We're going to do things, a little bit different, and that's how we're going to beat those teams.
Jake, you're up.
Trey, were you happy last year with how you felt you handled the expectations of being a starting freshman shortstop at Texas? And do you feel like this year maybe it's not you playing more comfortable, but at least a little bit more relaxed out there?
Yeah, I would say I think I didn't handle it great. I think there's things I could have done better, but for the most part, looking back at it, I think I handled myself well. And when I made mistakes, I was able to pick myself back up. But yeah, I definitely do think going into this year, I'm a little bit more relaxed. I wouldn't say relaxed in that I'm comfortable, but relaxed in the fact that I know what I'm going to do. I know how to prepare. I know how things are going to be. So I think it allows me to just relax and really focus on my game and with the task at hand.
Got one last one for Trey. Go ahead, Chris.
Trey, how is this team handling these preseason expectations? You're a top 10 team, picked 3rd in the Big 12. You got an All-American pitcher, 4 guys getting preseason all-conference recognition. How do you manage these lofty expectations?
For me, I think none of us are really too worried about that. They say what they say, but at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything if we don't go out and perform. So for me, we can be ranked number 1. It doesn't matter if we go out there and play bad, So I think if we keep it all inside and just play, our best baseball and do what we're supposed to do and do what we're capable of, I think we'll be just fine. Everything will take care of itself. But just not trying to do too much and just play baseball and have fun.